I'm live. Oh my god. Hello. How are we all doing? Right. Let's get this link up ready for you so you can watch me. Let's copy this. Let's send this. Ooh. Something's going down. I can hear sirens. Wow. So, how's everyone been? How's your day gone? How's your first weekend in lockdown been? Eventful? I bet it has. Right, okay, so let's get started, shall we? Okay. So, today's topic. Okay, I'm going to be teaching anyone that's on B2 level for the next couple of weeks. For those of you that don't know me, I'm looking at completely the wrong camera. I should be looking right here. My name's Andy. I'm a super prof of the Benny McClett Academy. Yes. So to all my students and Benny McClett students, hello, you've got me. Marshall Leonard and Miss Latter, welcome. So today's first topic online is going to be all about house and home. Now, I want to see if you can see this, okay? Let's write this at the top. Ooh, no, I'm not going to see this at all. Let's try house and home. Okay, can you see that okay? No, the light's kind of blurry, but it's fine. Right, so today's topic, house and home. Do you know what type of house that you live in? There's many different types of houses. You've got apartments, you've got houses, you've got detached houses, you've got castles. People can live in all sorts of different houses. But before we talk about that, let's just do a little bit of speaking practice. Yeah, you didn't think that you were doing speaking at home, did you? In the exam, you're going to be asked something like, where do you live? Very simple question, yeah? So, where do you live? What could you say about where you live? Which is point number one at the top here. Well, I could say I live in a neighbourhood called Benicalap, which is a neighbourhood in the north of Valencia. I could say I live in an apartment in Valencia, which is a city on the east coast of Spain. Or I could say I live in a 2-bed semi-detached house in the rich neighbourhood of Alvaraya in the north of Valencia. Someone's got a bit of money. But what I say, with these kind of questions, what you should try and do is give 3 pieces of information. Because then your answer is not too long, nor is it too short. There's been so many times where I've tried to speak to people and I go, where do you live? And they go, Valencia. And it's like, oh, give me more, come on. So try and give 3 pieces of information when you give an answer to a question like that. Where do you live? Okay, so I want you to answer me the question right now. Yeah, in this live video. Where do you live? That's it, go on. That's 1 piece of information. That's 2. And that's 3. Yes. Okay, well done. So, I live in Benicalap, which is a neighbourhood in the north of Valencia. I live in a 3-bed apartment. Yeah, 3 pieces of information. Dead easy. Okay, so that's 1 thing done already. We can cross off the list. Okay, so as you know, I said that I live in an apartment. Okay, that is the type of house that you can live in. What other types of houses are there? Well, if you have downloaded the PowerPoint that was available on B2 course, you will see that on slide 3, there are many different types of houses there. If you haven't, don't worry. Andy's got a piece of chalk and he's going to write them on the board so you can see. All right, so first type of house that you could live in is you could live in what's called a bedsit. Can you see that? A bedsit. No, it's right under the light. You can see it in the PowerPoint, don't worry. A bed sit is a really small space. It's kind of like bedroom, living room, kitchen, all in one kind of thing. And then you've got a separate bathroom. It's very, very cheap to live in a bed sit in England. Don't think they're that common, actually, but they are around. So it's kind of like one space, one living space. It's very, very small. Another thing that you can live in is what we call a caravan. Yeah, it's a mobile home. Yes, we all know what caravans are. Okay. You've seen them all on the roads before. It's a motorhome, basically. Okay, caravan. They can be big, or they can be small. You can spend a lot of money on them. They can be luxurious, or could be quite cheap and very, very basic. Yes, caravan. The great thing about caravan is you can move house every single day. Yes. Another type of apartment that you can live in. Oh, just said it is apartment or a flat. Okay. In the UK, we call it a flat. But in Europe and America, we'd probably call it an apartment. Europe and America, yes. If you said that you lived in an apartment in England, we'd probably think it's quite a luxurious flat. They can be quite big, maybe spacious, lots of rich furniture. But typically in the UK, we just say a flat. Lots of people live in a flat. Another type of house that you can live in is, with the word house, you could say you live in a detached house. Here you have your adjective. A detached house, yes. A detached house basically is a standalone house. It's a house by itself, it might have a garage, a big garden. You'll find detached houses a lot more in the countryside than in the city because they are so big. Another type of house that you can have a detached house, or you can have what's called a semi-detached house. Semi-detached houses are when you have two houses attached together. Now, these type of houses are very, very common in England, especially in suburbs or in villages. Just like I said, two houses that join together with a wall down the middle to separate them. But typically, either side of a semi-detached house, you could get a garage. They've got a big garden around each of the houses as well. Very, very common in 1950s and 60s England. And still around today. Another type of house that you can get is a terraced house. Yes, terraced house basically means there's a long row of houses all together. Okay, now a terraced house means that you have your house and there's a house on either side of your house. These were very, very typical towards the end of the Industrial Revolution, where miners would typically live in a terraced house. Used to be very, very small, but then it became very big and grand. So yeah, terraced houses. You can have also what's called a bungalow. I'm going to apologize if you cannot read this. I'm really, really sorry, but you've got the PowerPoint, so you should have downloaded it anyway. You've got a bungalow. This typically is a small house. In England, a lot of older people live in bungalows. Why? Because typically a bungalow has no stairs, so it's very easy for older people to get about. It's all on the same floor. So you've got a bungalow. You've also got a cottage as well. Now, cottage is a small-ish house found typically in the countryside or a forest. Okay, all you gotta do is think about Disney films where some of the characters live in the forest. They live in a cottage. Typically, a cottage has a thatched roof. It's like a roof that's made of hay and straw. You know that horses eat. That was typically what a cottage was back in the days. But still quite popular for holidays if you want to go and have a holiday in the forest or the countryside. Stay in a nice traditional cottage. Another type of house you can have. You can have your house on what's called a housing estate. Very, very common in England, housing estate, is when you get a big collection of houses together, and you typically rent them off the council. So poorer families, maybe some middle class families as well, would typically rent a house in a housing estate because it's very cheap. Other types of houses you can have, you can have a chalet. When you say chalet, I typically think big wooden ski lodge in the mountains. Or you can have a villa, which is what Spain is full of. A villa is kind of like a summer house that you stay in on the coast of Spain. So when you say villa to British people, we think big white house, swimming pool, nice and airy. Yeah. What else have you got? You've got a loft. A loft. Now, if you live in a loft in England, you have a bit of money. A loft is a big, big open space where you've got, it's kind of one big space, but maybe in this corner it's like the living room. In this corner you might have the kitchen. This corner might be the nice bedroom. And in this corner there might just be a couple of walls that house the bathroom. It's a big, big space. It's typically quite expensive to live in a loft in England. We can get even bigger than this as well. You can also live in a mansion. Now, typically, when you win the lottery, if I won the lottery, I would buy a mansion. Yeah, mansions are these big, big houses. Yes, 5, 6, 10, 15 bedrooms. You might have 3 or 4 living rooms, 5 or 6 bathrooms. These are these big, big, big houses. Some of the Hollywood actors will stay in a mansion. But a lot of lottery winners will typically buy a mansion as well. Okay, not very common, but they exist. They're big, big houses, essentially. So these are all your different types of houses that you can live in. Now, when you ask someone about the type of house they live in English, in British English, it's very typical that you say the number of bedrooms that you have in your house. For example, if you were to ask me, Andy, where do you live? What type of house do you live in? I could say, I live in an apartment in Benicalap. But my next question is going to be, how many bedrooms? So to avoid that, a lot of British people will say, instead of I live in an apartment, they will say, I live in a 3-bed apartment. Okay? Another answer could be, I live in a 4-bed house. Someone else might say, I live in a 1-bed flat. Okay? When you say the number of bedrooms that you have in your apartment or house, we can kind of gauge how big the property is. So yeah, it's just a little piece of extra information that you can give. So when someone asks you where do you live, you can say, oh, I live in a 5-bed house. I live in a 5-bed semi-detached house in Albury. And I'll say, right, well, the party's at your house tonight then. So that's the types of houses that you can live in. Okay, there are obviously many other types of houses. There's strange houses as well. You could live in a houseboat. You could live on a bus, for example. There are many other types of houses, but these are the more common types of houses that you can live in. Okay. Now, let's carry on. Let's talk about different parts of a house or an apartment. Okay, on slide 4 in front of you, you've got some more vocabulary. Okay, let's go through all of the pieces of vocabulary on that slide to make sure that you understand what they are. There we go. Okay, so first of all, you've got the master bedroom. The master bedroom. Now, the master bedroom is as it sounds. It sounds very big, very grand. Okay, the master bedroom will typically be the biggest bedroom of the house. Mum and dad will typically have this bedroom. Okay, but then when you get your own house, when you leave home and you start buying your own house or start renting your own house for university or anything, you will probably get the master bedroom. Yeah, a big bedroom with a big bed. Okay. Another thing that you can get is what we call a utility room. Now, utility room is typically where the washing machine and the tumble dryer is housed. It's where you do the laundry. Okay. Some people might have their fridge or their freezer, or a second freezer, if you shop that much, in this room as well. And you could also use it for storage. But yes, in English, British and American English, we would say utility room. You could say utility balcony, but either way, you say utility, we automatically think laundry. Okay. Another space that you can have is what you call a shed. The shed is a small, separate building found in the garden, and this is where you house all your gardening tools. This will be where you keep the brush, you keep saws, you keep hammers. This is typically where Dad would do in woodwork and store all his gardening tools as well, to keep the garden nice and clean and tidy, because you don't want those tools in the house. Okay, so this tends to be like a small wooden-looking kind of house in the garden. Okay, you call it the shed. All right, another place that you can have in the house is what you call the attic. Some people may call it the loft. That's why if you say you live in a loft, it typically tends to be a big open space. But the attic and loft, okay, they're found at the top of the house. Now, in Spanish houses, you don't really get an attic because you all live in apartments, yeah? But in England, when you live in a house, you have that section under the roof. So you've got the ground floor, the first floor, and then from here, you've then got your roof, okay? This space here is what you call the attic. Now in England, a lot of the time, the attic is used to store items. It could be to store old things from when you were a child, old games. It's typically stuff that you don't want to chuck away, okay? But it's an extra storage space. Some people convert their attics into a living space. When I was younger, my dad turned the attic into another bedroom. So we lived in an attic conversion or a loft conversion. Another thing that you can have in a house is what you call a cellar. A cellar is a space that is underneath the house, underneath the ground floor, and they have no windows, and it's typically used for storage. That's why you have what's called a wine cellar. Yes, because that's where you store wine, away from daylight. So a cellar is a space that's underneath the house with no windows. As opposed to a basement. A basement is a space underneath the house that has windows, and you can use it for living space or for studying or something. It could be in the bedroom. But the basement is then another space that you can live in, as it has windows. Okay, a cellar has no windows, but they are both found underneath the house. Another thing that you could find in your house includes a studio. Studio is typically where a painter or a photographer would work. So a painter needs a lot of space to hang their paintings. A photographer needs a lot of space to hang their photos, especially when they've been in the darkroom and they've processed. Okay, they need to dry. So yeah, studio is a big open space. Another thing that you can have in a house is what's called a landing. A landing is an area typically found at the top of the stairs. Okay, a landing. You can also have a hall or a hallway. This tends to be the area downstairs that connects all the rooms. Okay, so between the hall and the landing, you have the stairs that connect the two. Another space you can have in the house is called the porch. Porch generally is a covered area after the front door. So it's when you walk into the front door, you can then take your coat off, you put your umbrella down, you might take your shoes off. This area right here by the front door is the porch. Okay. Two more spaces. We've got terrace. Some of you might call it patio. Okay, this area of a house is located between the house and the garden. It is a big paved area that's typically used for sitting or relaxing or maybe dining as well. It connects the garden to the house. It's what you call the terrace or the patio. There's one more area that you might have in the house, and that is called typically in the house. It's called the drive. Now, in English and America, you might have a drive. It's basically a small-ish road that connects the street to your garage. If you don't have a garage, you could still have a drive in the garden. It's basically a space to park a car. Okay? So, there you've got some different areas of the house as well. Okay? Now, let's carry on. Now we're going to look at some vocabulary. Some vocabulary that's very commonly misused in English language learners. Now, you can see on the next slide, which is slide 5, we've got some various different words. We have got the words space. I'm not talking about space up there with the stars and the moon, no. I'm talking about space in general, where there is somewhere to put things. We've got the word place. We have got the word, what have we got? Room. We've got the word area. We have the word location and square. Now here's the tricky thing. All of them, except square, can be countable or uncountable. It depends on the context that you're talking in, okay? You can talk about the number of spaces. You go to a car park, and you say, hey, there are a lot of spaces available. You talk about individual spaces, okay? Or say you go to the Turia, for example, you want to go for a picnic, and you go, oh, there's a big space over here. You talk about space in general, you're not talking about a specific number of spaces. You're just talking about the space that's available, okay? You can talk about place, okay? Place is basically when you're talking about the area or building or town, okay? You could say, for example, in Valencia, there are many places to have tapas and beers, yes? Or, as an uncountable noun, you can use the word place to talk about, for example, again, if you're at Alvarez Beach and you go, oh, this place looks nice, let's go here, let's put the towels down here, okay? There's a difference between countable and uncountable. You then got the word room. Now, room can be countable, talk about rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, living rooms, yes. Or you can also talk about room being uncountable as well, when you talk about the amount of space that's available, yes. Say you put on a pair of trousers after you've been to the gym for 6 months, and you go, oh my God, there's so much room here in these trousers. Okay, that's when it's uncountable. Moving on to the word area. Area can be countable and uncountable as well. When you talk about area, you're talking about a particular part or section of something. Yeah, so again, we could go to the beach and we say, oh, this area over here by the sea looks nice. Let's put the towel down here. Yeah, or you can talk about specific areas. Okay, for example, I could say there are many areas that you can meet friends and have a drink in Valencia. It depends on the type of culture, the type of lifestyle that you like. Yeah, so it can be countable and uncountable. You can also talk about location as well. You can talk about specific locations. There are many locations where you can find a good paella. Yes, so then it's countable. But then it can also be uncountable as well. When you talk about the location of the treasure, for example, then that wouldn't be countable because you wouldn't talk about locations because it would typically only be one. Okay? And then you've got the word square. Square is typically a space that's surrounded by buildings. As the word goes, square is typically a square shape. Okay? A lot of cities and towns, they will have a city or town square as well. So that's where we would have been watching the Mascleta. Yes. But unfortunately, we're not this year, not till later on. So don't worry. We will see it again. So there are some commonly misused words when we talk about house and home. Okay. Now, very quickly, let's talk about a few factors in deciding a house. What's important when you buy a house? What's important to you? Is it the fact that it's a quiet neighbourhood? Is it the fact that it has good views? Is it the fact that there are shops within walking distance? Yeah, what kind of things are important in buying a house? Maybe ask your parents that question. What was it that made you buy this house, Mum and Dad? Yeah, or maybe think about the future. What's going to be important to you when you buy your house? What kind of factors are you going to look at? Yeah, you could maybe live somewhere because it's close to work. Some parents might live close to school, so that's convenient for them. Yeah, there are many different things to look at when deciding where to buy a house or an apartment, and you'll find them on slide 6. Okay, but moving on very quickly, on slide 7. Okay, we've got lots of phrasal verbs on slide 7 and 8. All right. On the slides, you've got the phrasal verb and you've got an explanation of how to use it as well and what it means. But those phrasal verbs are, because I can see the PowerPoint right in front of me here. We've got to move out. That's when you stop living somewhere. Okay, to move in. That's when you start living somewhere. Okay, and you're talking about the actual leaving and entering of a property and beginning or finishing to live somewhere. You could move in together. To move in together is typically when a boy and a girl, they get together and they want to go into a house. Okay, so they start to live together. That's when you say to move in together. Okay, I've just noticed that at the corner of my eye, there's lots of people commenting. Okay, that's fantastic. Well done. That shows one or two things. Either you're listening or you have no idea what I'm saying and you're trying to ask me a question. But don't worry, I will try and answer your questions either during the PowerPoint, during the talk, if I can see, or I'll answer them afterwards. Don't worry, okay? But it's great to see you commenting. Thank you. You can also, to live on something, okay? To live on something means to have enough money to be able to buy things that you need, okay? I'm living on something. So you could live on 500 euros a month. Kind of thing. That means you've got enough money to survive on the things that you need. However, you can also live off something, okay? Or you can live off somebody. That means that you have enough money to buy the things you need, but it comes from somewhere, as in maybe it comes from a savings account from your bank, or it could come from another person. You can live off another person. Yeah, maybe university students, they could live off their mum and dad, which means mum and dad give them an allowance and they give them money, okay, to live off somebody. To put up somebody or to put somebody up. Now remember, some phrasal verbs, you can split the verb and the preposition. Okay, to put somebody up means that you invite someone into your house to stay for a short time. So maybe someone that's having a bit of trouble. Maybe they've moved out from mum and dad, maybe their boyfriend and girlfriend have split up and they need to find another house, okay? You can offer to put somebody up, okay? To take someone in for a short time. You can also to sleep over or to stay over. This means when you go to a friend's house, or it could be a partner's house, you never know, and you stay typically for one night, okay? To stay over or to sleep over. Okay, that's why a lot of the time, especially when Spanish people say, I stayed with my friends. What did you do the weekend? I stayed with my friends. Oh, so if you stay with your friends, that can also mean that you went to their house and you went to sleep for the night. Okay, be very careful with that. Okay. Now, when you do sleep over at someone's house, you can call it a sleepover. Okay, it can be a noun, a sleepover. I'm having a sleepover. But don't get that confused with the verb to oversleep. Yes, when you oversleep, this means that you sleep for more time than you intended to. Now that can be dangerous, okay? A lot of people do actually rush to work and they go, I'm really, really sorry that I'm late. I overslept, okay? That is what that means, to oversleep. It means to sleep longer than intended, okay? So don't get that confused, to sleep over and to oversleep, okay? Now, we've also got a few more phrasal verbs before I finish this video because I realized that I waffle. Now, if you've watched my video before, I told you what the word waffle means. Okay, to waffle means when you talk a lot, sometimes about nothing important. Okay. On the next slide, you've got some other common phrasal verbs, which I'm actually not going to go through because they're very, very basic phrasal verbs. You should be able to understand them, okay? I'm not going to explain what get up means, wake up, to sleep in, to lie in, no. That should be stuff that you already know, okay? So there's a little bit of homework. If you don't know what they mean, study them a little bit, okay? You've got the definitions on the right-hand side of the slide as well, so you need to match the phrasal verb with the definition. Okay. Also, remember when you speak, try and use adjectives to make your language interesting. Okay. Can you describe your neighbourhood to me? Yeah. How would you describe Benicalap? How would you describe the neighbourhood of Patrace? How would you describe Orioles? How would you describe Benimaclet? How would you describe, I don't know, Guards de Pomlet? Yeah. All these different neighbourhoods. You could probably use different adjectives to describe how people live there and what the neighbourhood is like, okay? Now you'll find a list of commonly used adjectives to describe neighbourhoods on slide 9 of the PowerPoint, okay? But to finish today's class off, we've got on slide 10, when you use prefer, do you use it with gerund or an infinitive? Again, this is a very common mistake, especially with B2 students. Because when you get to this stage, you really need to know your grammar. Because there's going to be little things like this that's going to cost you marks on your exam. Okay? So, let's have a look at some examples on slide 10. Okay, now the main thing to remember is gerunds and infinitives are mortal enemies. They do not compete with each other. Okay? They're not compatible at all. Okay? You're either a gerund fan or an infinitive fan. Now this is going to help you decide how to use them properly, okay? So, on slide 10, you can see, it says, I like living in Benicalap, okay? You can also use infinitive with that. I like to live in Benicalap, okay? Either use one or the other. Never, ever, ever say, I like live in Benicalap. No, 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 because that's not a gerund or an infinitive, okay? If you're going to use the infinitive, you must use to. I like to live in Benicalap. Or if it's the gerund, I like living in Benicalap. Okay? Now that's very simple. Let's carry on. Okay. I prefer. If you use prefer, the beauty about prefer is when you give two options, because that's what prefer is basically saying, that you like two, but you like one of them more than the other. Okay? When you use the verb of preference, prefer, you should use either gerunds or infinitives. You cannot use a gerund and an infinitive, or an infinitive and a gerund. No, absolutely not. It's one or the other. Okay? So you can say, I prefer living in Benimaclet to living in Benicalap. Okay? That's absolutely fine. So when you use gerunds, you would have a gerund plus to, and then plus gerund again. Okay, this, when you say to here, between the two gerunds, that is then differing between the two options. I prefer playing football to playing rugby. Yes, I prefer eating pizza to eating ice cream. Okay, the two here in the middle, this is separating your two options. Okay, you can also use the infinitive. Okay, when you use the infinitive, you do have to change prefer slightly. You'll say, I would prefer. Okay, so here you have would. I would prefer to plus the verb to do something. Okay, and then to connect these two ideas, you then have to use rather than. Rather than. And then here, you don't have a to. It's just the verb. Okay? Like I said, you either use gerunds or infinitives. Okay? You can see the example on the slide right here. So very quickly, when you look at the differences between infinitives and gerunds, at the top on the right, I wrote a very simple sentence. Okay? You can say, gerunds like doing something to doing something else. Okay? That's very easy. Or, if you use infinitives, you have to say infinitives would prefer to do something rather than do something. Yeah? Or you can say infinitives would much rather do something than do something else. Okay? They're the different ways that you can use gerunds and infinitives with the verb of preference, prefer. Okay? But we're going to teach you more about gerunds and infinitives in another video because they can be very, very annoying. Okay? On the next few slides, you have got 2 listening exercises. Okay? On the Google Classroom, you have the 2 audio files attached. Okay? So if you want to practice a little bit of listening, you can do at home. All right? But that's it for today for house and home. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. I have as well. I've had a blast. If you've got any questions or any comments, please put a comment right now. Okay, I'm going to go through your comments and see what you've been talking about. Or you can feel free to send a message to me. You can also send an email as well to andy@englishhomecastle.com. Very, very easy. Okay, but for now, that's it. B2, house and home, done. Okay, so now you can study a bit more at home. We've all got plenty of time now because of this lockdown, so you've got no excuse to not study. Okay? I'll catch you another day, guys. See you later. Bye-bye. Now, how do you turn this off? Yeah, I know I'm still live.
Well done. Yeah, that was 6 minutes. Wow.